What up, everybody? It's your boy, Cardinal Red, and we are back for another one. Alright, y'all, so Manny Pacquiao's secret strategy. Bud Crawford, Errol Spence Jr. unification fight. Let's get into it. Why am I saying that? Why am I titling the video that? You know, Manny Pacquiao's secret strategy, Bud Crawford, Errol Spence unification fight. So why those two subjects? You know, the Pacquiao strategy, the Bud Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. unification fight. Okay, let's get in. So recently, we know Manny Pacquiao has retired from boxing to focus on his political aspirations. Now, let's start with that. Now, Manny Pacquiao had to ensure his backers he was 100% focused on his campaign and becoming president so these people don't waste their money. But I don't think this is the last time we're going to see Manny Pacquiao in a boxing ring, and I want to break down why. There's some few interesting topics when it comes to Errol Spence Jr. versus Manny Pacquiao, when it comes to Terence Crawford versus Manny Pacquiao, when it comes to Yordenis Ugas, the fight that actually happened versus Manny Pacquiao. Now, I want to start from the beginning. I want to start with the Terence Crawford-Pacquiao fight that was supposed to happen. So let's jump into that.
Did Terence Bud Crawford duck Manny Pacquiao? Now, according to reports, there was a contract sent to Terence Bud Crawford and Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao signed it. Terence Bud Crawford did. I have two questions. Terence Crawford, did you want the fight? Did you want the fight?
Alright, so we had the Terence Crawford-Manny Pacquiao fight that was supposed to be signed. The money was supposed to be there. It was supposed to happen in Dubai. And Terence Crawford got the contract, never signed the contract. Well, he says Crawford said he was going to sign, and Bob Arum didn't want to sign, basically. So, or one of those two scenarios is how it's playing out. Those are the two guys that are basically to blame for why the Terence Crawford-Manny Pacquiao fight didn't happen. Now, what does that have to do with Pacquiao retirement and Pacquiao's presidential run, the Errol Spence Jr. fight, and the Yordenis Ugas fight? Well, from the beginning, I've been telling everybody before the Ugas fight actually happened, I felt like Pacquiao Ugas was a setup. And I've been getting a lot of comments from people, I'll throw a few of them up, saying that they feel like if Ugas, in my last video, they said if Ugas was a part of the conspiracy, that he's just as much to blame for Pacquiao's loss. Basically something like that. Now, I don't feel like Ugas is to blame. I think Ugas is a scapegoat in all this as well. Now, back to what I was saying about Terence Crawford. What does Terence Crawford have to do with all this? Well, the Terence Crawford is one of those guys who called out Manny Pacquiao.
You've been clear. The names you want are Manny Pacquiao, Errol Spence.
He is far and away the best welterweight in the world. I'll put Terence Crawford in with both of them, one at a time, and he beat both of them the same night. He goes back to the great welterweights like Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns. He would have been competitive with them. The welterweights around now are not competitive with Terence Crawford.
Where are you, Terence, in terms of your future?
Oh, well, I'm looking to secure a Pacquiao fight.
He said he wanted to fight Manny Pacquiao, and he said he would definitely fight Manny Pacquiao before he retired. And these guys, Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford, they claim to be the top dogs at 147 pounds of boxing. And it's crazy to me that the top dogs are always calling out who they think the best fighter is, but they're never actually fighting who the best fighters are. He's never fought Errol Spence. He's never fought Manny Pacquiao. He never fought Keith Thurman. He hasn't fought any of these legends within the sport. And I do feel like in a lot of ways there was a conspiracy to get Manny Pacquiao out of the sport because of money reasons. Not for this reason. But I do feel like there was a conspiracy to get him out of the sport. And I don't think it went as deep as to try to poison the man. But I do feel like there was a setup from the beginning, because I don't think they want to pay Manny Pacquiao what he's worth anymore. And I think he's too dangerous for these young fighters. Because, listen, when he moved over to PBC boxing, they tried to use Pacquiao as a measuring stick to promote the younger fighters. And I guess they felt like they were just getting a pay-per-view star who would come over there and be able to put on big fights with their younger guys, but probably not win those fights. What they ended up getting was an old, motivated fighter who was beating the crap out of all of their young fighters. Like this, and like this. So, I think, yes, a conspiracy was formed to blackball Manny Pacquiao, for lack of a better word. To push him aside, get him out of the way. Because if you were to face him up against the top dog, Errol Spence Jr., this might happen to him. And I think they realized that. And they didn't want to risk their cash cow on Manny Pacquiao, who is on his way to do this. So, I mean, why would you risk all your money, all your assets, your biggest stock in Errol Spence Jr. against a guy who's about to take your belts, basically, and go become president and retire with them? Then you got to start your whole campaign all over again. So, I feel like, yes, there was a conspiracy to get Manny Pacquiao out of the way. And I think it started with the Terence Crawford negotiations. And I think Terence Crawford had no actual intent of fighting Manny Pacquiao. He just wanted to see what was the measuring stick for the Pacquiao fight. How much can I actually get out of these guys for that fight? And can I get it in the right place? And since he wasn't getting the dollar signs that he wanted for that fight, and he couldn't get the venue he wanted for that fight, they basically got out of the way and left it up to PBC to get rid of Pacquiao. And enter Errol Spence Jr.
And tell Manny Pacquiao come back over here.
I'm trying to fight Manny Pacquiao next.
And it'd be my honor to fight him next.
Manny Pacquiao.
Now, exactly like I said about Terence Bud Crawford. He challenged Manny Pacquiao. He challenges everybody, but he never actually fights anybody. And I think that is the biggest dilemma of what I'm calling the duck generation in boxing. You know, they call out all the top guys, but they never fight them. Now, the Errol Spence Jr. fight came about very quickly, just like the Ugas fight did. Nobody saw this fight coming. You know, everybody was expecting him just to go ahead and fight Mikey Garcia or Danny Garcia or you know, someone like that. They never thought he was actually going to get an Errol Spence Jr. fight. And I think at that point, Errol Spence Jr.'s team might have felt like Manny Pacquiao would never sign the contract to actually fight him. Okay, because Pacquiao even himself had been saying that maybe he wouldn't fight him. Freddie Roach had been saying, hey, maybe you shouldn't fight this guy. So I think Errol Spence Jr. just threw a little bait out there to see if he could hook, you know, some attention off of Manny Pacquiao's name, and Manny Pacquiao actually accepted the fight. Now this left Errol Spence Jr. with a dilemma. Do I get in the ring with the guy who just did this to one of the biggest welterweights of today, or do I use this hype train to promote myself and then pull a switcheroo? Enter Ugas. Alright, I hope you guys are following me up to now. Now, I'm not one to say, you know, people do extreme things like try to kill you behind the scenes or poison you behind the scenes nowadays, but they do manipulate behind the scenes. And they do influence, and they do pull strings. And I believe Manny Pacquiao in this situation had quite a few strings pulled on him. So, you had the Spence fight get signed. You know, the hype train came along. Everybody's building up. Everybody's ready for this. You know, the Spence fans are saying Earl's going to destroy Pacquiao. The Pacquiao fans are saying this is the best he's looked in years. The footage is coming out. And people are comparing these two fighters. And there was a glaring difference. Pacquiao looked ridiculously quick. Errol Spence Jr. looked like a very slow Margarito. What do you do with this scenario? Enter the eye injury. Okay, so now we're getting to the end of the story. So in comes the excuse to get Errol Spence out of this, the eye injury. And it worked like a charm. It worked like a charm. You know, it was the perfect time. And I do feel like the injury is real. But I don't think that the injury was real enough to stop the fight. I think he knew about the injury before the Danny fight, but he fought. And I think they knew that Pacquiao hits hard. His boxing IQ is high enough to do damage. Why risk it when we could just pull this little card out of the deck and say, hey, I'm injured. I don't have to fight you. And at the same time, we got a replacement for you. You've never seen this guy, but neither me or Terence Crawford actually want to fight him. Ooh, guys. And for a reason. Because he's an unpredictable fight. Nobody really follows this guy. Nobody really knows what he had to offer. So they threw Pacquiao in there with an unknown. Neither Terence Crawford or Errol Spence had to risk their O. And Pacquiao got beat. Enter retirement. Now everybody's saying, well, we told you so. He should have left a long time ago. He's old. He can't do it anymore. His legs are gone. He's washed up. Look at him crying. Look at him eating soup with his wife. You know, he's a shell of himself. Stay out of this grown man's game. Well, I think at the end of the day, after that fight, Manny Pacquiao realized he got set up. And it was written all over his face at the press conference, at his ring, you know, when he was going back to it was written all over his face. He knew, hey, I got set up. These people want me out of the way. I can still beat these guys, but these people really want me out of the way. And I think it really sunk in when they announced, because the day after they announced that Ugas had a mandatory is the day Pacquiao announced he was going to run for president. So I think he realized they want me out of the way. It's time for me to fully focus on politics and politics alone, becoming a president. But there could be a secret strategy to all of this. Pacquiao knows he can still beat these guys. But Pacquiao knows one thing. They will never give him a unification fight until those two guys fight each other. Being the old silver fox, I think Pacquiao really is. I think he realized this. Maybe I should just step out of the way, let these two guys fight each other, become the president of the Philippines, or at least run and give a good shot at becoming the president of the Philippines. Then I'll make my return. I know I can still beat these guys. Let these guys get it over with. Let one become crowned king and let me come back and challenge the king. He already said, I know Al Heyman will make the fight if I want it. And I think that is the strategy that Pacquiao is using here. Sit back, wait, let me deal with my personal life and see what these two guys can bring to the table. Let me know what y'all think down in the comment section. I do believe that is the strategy Pacquiao is using. I don't believe this is going to be his last fight. I do believe we will see Pacquiao one more time in a boxing ring. And it might be against your favorite fighter, Errol Spence Jr. or Terence Bud Crawford. Hit that like button for me. Please subscribe. It's your boy, Cardinal Red. And we are out of here.